Canada's telecom giants will provide emergency services if there's another network outage. The agreement comes after tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Canadians were left without access to 911 services due to a massive system failure at Rogers in July. But who will pay for those improvements? Minister of Industry François-Philippe Champagne is in Vancouver. Hi, Minister Champagne. Good to see you.
It's very good to see you.
Minister, what guarantees did you get that telecom companies won't pass on any costs that they're going to incur because of this agreement to consumers?
Well, let me be very clear to them as they probably are watching tonight. I'll be watching them like a hawk. I mean, this is really an insurance policy between the 12 networks to ensure more resilience and redundancy. When I met them back in July, I was speaking on behalf of millions of Canadians, expressing the frustration of this major outage, also expressing the frustration of emergency workers and hundreds of thousands of businesses across the country. So the agreement, you remember at the time I gave them 60 days. They honored that request. They've signed an agreement now. But this is only the first step because we know emergency roaming is going to help. We know mutual assistance has to be codified. The other thing I was very keen is the communication protocol. I mean, this was one thing. Honestly, it should not be for the Minister of Industry of Canada to chase a CEO in a major outage. It should be the other way around. I think that's pretty clear to Canadians. And certainly now what we have in place is going to be a step further in resiliency. But I've announced 4 other measures to improve the resiliency, and I think that's what Canadians expect. They want reliability, affordability, more competition. It's going in that direction.
And certainly I appreciate the point that you're making about reliability and how concerned Canadians were when that happened back in July. My question to you, however, was around whether or not this agreement that they've come to, and I think Canadians will be pleased that there are more emergency measures that are going to be in place. But I think they're also concerned not just about reliability, but about the costs, the price that we pay as Canadians for our cell phones, for our internet services. And you didn't directly address whether or not there is anything guaranteed by these companies that you ensured that would not be passed on to consumers. Watching them like a hawk sounds, effective, but we don't know if it will be.
Well, listen, let me be very clear to them. I do not expect them to pass any of these costs on to the consumers. And the reason for it, Vashi, is that this is an insurance policy for them. The fact that they're going to be working together, and I'm sure they're watching tonight. Like I said, we'll be watching them on that. But clearly the spirit and the intent and how we approached that when I met them in July, when I convened that meeting, was to say, listen, this has been unacceptable, full stop. We need to do better. You need to do better. Those are the 3 things that I'm demanding you do within 60 days. And there's more to come, as you saw in the agreement. So clearly, the intention is very clear that they would assume the cost of that. And like I said, should we see anything different, we'll be watching extremely carefully to make sure that this is not the case. And I think Canadians will be also making sure that we, let's say, respect the intent that they provided to us when we met, which was really, they said, Minister, we understand the frustration of Canadians. We understand we need to do better, and that's the answer to that. So clearly, they have to assume the cost of that.
So what happens, though, if they don't live up to that intent? And I ask in all seriousness because I think the level of confidence Canadians have in these companies is not at the highest level. I'm not sure the trust is there that they're going to live up to some intent that you're describing.
Well, listen, I'll be very clear to them. Should that not be the case, I'll go back to them and I'll say you have to assume the cost. And so far, when I speak, they tend to listen. So that's going to be the same thing. And not because it's me, Vashi, because I speak on behalf of millions of Canadians. And the last thing that Canadians would accept from these telcos after what we had to go through would be that they pass the cost to them. I mean, that would be completely unacceptable to me. That would be completely unacceptable to millions of Canadians. And what I can say is that as the regulator, I will ensure that this does not happen, and we'll be watching that very carefully. But I can tell you, in every discussion I had with them, this was clearly something that they saw beneficial to them, to have more resiliency. We're talking about mutual assistance. We're talking about systems that would help them. So I'm not even sure there'd be costs associated with that, because this is just making sure that their systems are better integrated in the case of emergency. That's not calling for additional investments. This is about coordination. This is about emergency preparedness, emergency roaming. That's very similar to what the United States has been doing with the Federal Communication Commission. So, those measures do not necessarily generate costs, but they certainly improve resiliency.
On the issue of cost, though, and the issue of the degree to which the market is monopolized by so few companies, why has your government not done more to combat that? I remember the 2019 campaign in which your party promised to reduce costs by 25% and bring Canadian prices in line with other countries in the G7 and Australia. That has not come anywhere close to fruition. Why not?
I'm not sure I would agree with that statement, Vashi. I mean, for the plans that we said they would be reduced by 21%, this has already happened. Now, let's be clear. We need to do more. We need to bring more competition. We need to bring more affordability. That's why we're watching very carefully the proposed mergers that we've seen. We've saw some acquisitions. I want to generate more companies that would go in the sector. I mean, what I can do as the regulator, and that's what I've done in the policy to the CRTC, you will recall that we withdraw the policy that was there during Stephen Harper, and now I've issued a new policy, a new directive, very clear to the CRTC to say affordability, competition. You need to be there to watch these companies on behalf of Canadians. That's our role. That's my role. That's their role as well. And I've codified that to say, you know what, when you're doing that at the CRTC, that's what you need to look for. And these measures certainly will go in the direction of more affordability and competition in our country, because that's the framework we want to have to make sure that not only we have resiliency, we saw that this was obviously needed, but we need more affordability and competition in our country.
Just to, with respect, challenge you, though, on the measures your government has taken. Yes, some plans have seen decreases. I think if you were to talk to any Canadian in Vancouver where you are or in Ottawa where I am and you ask them, hey, are you paying a lot less than you were in 2019 for your cell phone or for your internet, they would have trouble agreeing with the assessment. In fact, I was looking at some research from Rewheel in 2021. The median cost of mobile data in Canada across all plans is 4 times the OECD average and 5 times the EU average right now. So once again, I'll put to you, what beyond what you've already done is the government going to do to help Canadians with those prices, to make good on the promises you've made during campaigns?
Well, and again, let's go back to the facts, because I think facts matter in these discussions. The commitment where we're taking was with respect to a number of plans. With respect to these plans, the decrease has happened. Now, I agree with you. Listen, it's not only true in Vancouver, it's not only true in Toronto, it's not only true in Montreal, it's true in Shawinigan. That we need to do more with respect to affordability. You know, the discussion at Cabinet is all around affordability, the cost of living. We know that cell phone and internet bills are important to Canadians. It's a big part of what they have to spend on a monthly basis. What I'm saying is that what we had committed at the time has happened, but I agree with you, Vashi, that overall in the plans that are being offered to Canadians, we're still paying more than in many jurisdictions. I'm well aware of the statistics. And that's why I said when I did that policy to the CRTC, which was not the policy before, let's be clear, I said to them, you need to put first and foremost affordability and competition, because what we need to ensure, all of us, is to drive price down. That's the objective. That's what I'm trying at every step of the way. When we're looking at proposed transactions, when we're looking at policy issues, when I look at resilience in the system, it's always in the mind of trying to say, how can we make that more affordable for Canadians? I'm well aware of that, and that's what we're working on. And certainly, I'm open to more measures we can put in place. You will remember we put a bill up front to say Minister of Innovation needs to have more policy authority to do that, and I'm going to use all the authorities that I have to make sure that we fight for Canadians to lower the prices.
Just on that note, one very quick, I'm running out of time, final question for you, Minister, and that you mentioned transactions and the view through which, the lens through which you're looking at all of this is affordability. Given what the Competition Bureau has pushed back on with the Shaw-Rogers merger, given what the CRTC is examining, what the courts are looking at, given sort of the assessment that the Competition Bureau even had that it would drive prices up, is there any scenario under which you can imagine yourself signing off on that merger?
Well, I've been very clear that my frame of reference is about affordability, affordability, affordability. And I think I've repeated that. And I think the companies have understood that. Like I said, I'm very pleased with the work that the Competition Bureau is doing now. It's in court now because there's at the time I even said when this came on the face of it, I had serious concerns. And these concerns remain. And so we'll let the Competition Bureau, the court, do what they have to do. But if and when they submit something on my desk, certainly my frame of reference will be around affordability, competition, and resiliency. I've been clear, I've been outspoken about that. I think they understand that, and I would say it's for them, if ever they want to submit something to me, to demonstrate that this would be in the best interest of Canadians. Because, you know, my role is to defend Canadian consumers, to be the voice of Canadians, and to make sure that I fight for their best interests. That's what I do every day, and that's what I will continue to do if and when they submit something.
Right now, though, based on the face of what you know the merger would entail and what Canadians are aware of, based on the face of it, do you see that as in the best interest of Canadians?
Listen, when they file, I mean, Vashi, you know, as a regulator, you need to wait until you have a submission. That's part of due process, and I understand the regulatory environment. What I told you is what is my frame of reference when I'm going to be looking at that. And if and when they file, certainly I'll be there to make sure that this is in the best interest of Canadians. That's what I have at heart, and I think we have demonstrated that time and time again, just like now on resiliency, that we'll be there fighting for Canadians.
Minister, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.